Welcome back, everybody, to your three-man booth NFL playoff edition, heading into the divisional round of the playoffs. And Dan Salem, Phil, and Bud. We picked games last week, 1-1-1 around the horn for the wild card. 3 games. I got the win. Billy got the tie, but we're all evening out for the course of the season. It's all good. You actually both picked winners and then couldn't get the cover, which is the worst of situations. So we're going to have 3 more picks here for the divisional round. Not too many surprises in terms of who won last week, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. Phil, why don't you start us off? Who you like in the divisional round of the playoffs? We got 4 games this week, so 8 picks possible.
So as good as the Ravens looked the other day, or on Saturday, I think they played Saturday against the Titans.
Sunday.
It was Sunday. Bud said it. He goes, they look pretty one-dimensional. And I said, you're right. And the Bills play a lot of good defense. So unless Lamar Jackson's going to start slinging the ball everywhere, I'll take the Buffalo defense over the Ravens offense.
Yeah, and I think you're given only like a point or 2, so it's kind of almost.
I'll take the Bills in either one.
I like that pick. I mean, Buffalo's one of the hottest teams right now. The other hot team, I think, is your pick, Bud. Who you got for our second round of the playoffs?
Sorry, the internet just dropped there real quick. I'm going to pick Cleveland. Cleveland, I mean, how that game started, I was watching, and I just kept laughing, and Lori doesn't have a clue as to football or anything like that. And I'm just laughing. I just couldn't believe how dominant they looked. Pittsburgh scored points in garbage time, but really Cleveland just dominated that game. And I think we all kind of could have guessed that would have happened, considering how poor Pittsburgh's looked. I don't think they're going to beat Kansas City, but the spread is 10. And I think that's pretty high for a team that can score points when they want to, and defensively they're not as poor as people give them credit for. So I'm going to take Cleveland to cover the Kansas City to win.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they'll keep it within the 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City's not exactly shut anybody down either. And the Browns got a good offense the last month. That's a lot of points for a playoff game. I'm with you with the Browns, and I'm looking similarly to a quote underdog on the road. Tampa Bay getting 3 points against the Saints. Both of these teams are technically high-powered. Both technically play good defense. I kind of think that they're evenly matched. I like the way Tom Brady's been playing a lot more than Drew Brees. And I like that Tom Brady is coming off a playoff win with his team last week that really, I mean, they had to fight for it. But I really liked what I saw from the Buccaneers. And yeah, the Saints won, but they didn't really have a real competition. So I'm going to take the points because these teams seem like a toss-up to me on paper. And a field goal is more than enough to win this game for Tampa Bay.
I thought Washington had it at one point in that game. I mean, they were playing really well, and I was hoping real hard, that Washington could pull it off. I mean, Heineke played great. I thought he played way better than expected.
I think he played himself into a job next year and maybe for 5 years as probably a backup, but he definitely earned himself a new paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Washington did play well, and I mean, Tampa's very good, but they're not like out of this world great. I'm like wondering like what was really missing for Washington, and maybe it's that consistent running game because they don't feel like a balanced offense. They just kind of feel like a sputtering offense, but they played pretty good.
I would say I agree with you. I mean, they had essentially no running game. But Tampa Bay's running defense is way better than their passing defense. So I'm not sure if that's something that kind of goes hand in hand with how the game kind of played. I mean, Heineke wasn't really throwing the ball. I mean, he was effective and he kept the game close. I mean, they only lost by 6 points, 7 points.
Yeah, I mean, no,
I think
it was a push. It was a push. They 8, but.
Okay, so I mean, going into that game, I mean, you'd have to think Alex Smith's not playing. Washington stands no chance. I mean, Phil texted both of us and said if they score 10 points at the most, that would be a lot. I mean, they scored 23 points against a good defense in Tampa Bay. But for whatever reason, the last month, Tampa Bay's offense it's just clicking. I mean, this is very typical of a Tom Brady quarterback team, right?
Well, yeah, he had a great first couple months. He slows it down mid-season, and then he turns it on at the end and into the playoffs. And he seems to do that very well. Ben Roethlisberger did not do that well at all this season. I'm not convinced Breeze is necessarily doing it or not, even though they won handily.
He can't throw the ball downfield, though. And that's going to be the trouble, because Tom Brady can throw the ball downfield, even though he's 43. Drew Brees, he's not consistent down the field anymore. And that's not going to work well, because Tampa Bay's defense is not good in the secondary. And
Right.
if you're just going to throw 10-yard passes, 12-yard passes, Tampa and Todd Bowles, they're going to figure you out. So it's going to be a lot of Alvin Kamara, a little more Alvin Kamara, and then hopefully a little bit of Mike Thomas, and that's how they're gonna play.
Yeah, and Phil, I'm going to throw this one to you. There's no home field advantage really, but the Saints are at home. Do you think that gives them a little bit of a leg up? Because these teams are really close. Because like we're saying, each team's pro and the other team's con. It's not like, oh, we know who's going to win this game at all.
Well, if you consider 3,000 fans a true home field advantage, I mean, at least the Saints get something. I don't know. I part of me thinks if Washington put up 23 points against the Bucs, and we all kind of thought, Washington's so. I think we kind of feel the New Orleans offense a lot more high power than Washington is. And how do you beat but I just said it. How do you beat the Bucs? Through the air. Mike Thomas down the field, Emmanuel Sanders, Cook down the field.
Yeah.
You pass Alvin Kamara. I mean, they can beat you in a lot of different ways.
So Breeze,
Michael Thomas wasn't really a factor in this game. I mean, again, Chicago, we kind of all went into it thinking Chicago wasn't going to do much, and Trubisky kind of held the form that their offense couldn't do anything. But I mean, if Michael Thomas isn't a factor, Phil, I mean, you going to Emmanuel Sanders? You going to Cook? I mean, who are you going to? I mean, I just don't know. I mean, again, it's going to be Kamara and Drew Brees is yeah, but Michael Thomas barely did anything this week. Yeah, it's his first game back all year, but I mean, you're going to need to figure out how to get him back in the offense.
He had 73 yards and a touchdown.
That's not a lot.
It's okay for the playoffs. I think both of you guys are saying basically Breeze has to step it up. He has to pull deep and find something of his old self and get his arm strength back a little bit this game, just so he can fling it around the field. And
you would think that the Saints are playing with a 2 or 3 year chip worth of chip on their shoulder for all the times they've been screwed the last 3 years. I mean, you got to feel they're playing with some sort of, we got to beat the crap out of these teams because I mean, they've been screwed over and over the last few years.
2 years ago and 3 years ago, they could have easily won the Super Bowl if they didn't get screwed.
Well, on the flip side, let's say Brady and the Bucs win. Brady might be sending Brees into retirement.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
possible.
And I can't help but give Tom Brady another credit here. He always manages to find a chip on his shoulder and play with one, even if it doesn't exist. That's probably one of his greatest strengths. He puts a chip on him and his team's shoulder some way, somehow, and they're playing with one. I don't know where it's coming from.
But let's think whole picture, right? So if let's say New Orleans is able to win, right?
Okay.
Green Bay's got to play Los Angeles. Now, Darnold might not play. Goff still got a broken thumb. I mean, I don't even know how he was able to throw the ball. And by the way, he wasn't able to throw the ball because his passing rating was awful. He couldn't really do much of anything. Is Drew Brees going to be able to go into Lambeau when it's 10, 15 degrees and throw the ball? I mean, he can't throw the ball downfield in a dome right now. He's not going to be able to throw the ball downfield when it's that cold.
No, I agree, but I'm not ready to just cast aside the Rams. I mean, you made a point that they couldn't throw the ball, and yet they beat Seattle. It was not like it was a question. It just felt like they were going to win, and it was going to be a close game. They shut down that offense. You don't think they can?
Yeah, but I agree with you, but Seattle's offense the last 4 weeks, other than the Jets game, because everybody was scoring points against the Jets, they hadn't really been producing a lot of points.
Yeah, I agree, and I know Green Bay is top of the league in scoring points. I know, and they're at home. The Rams just have managed to play every team close all year. I don't know if they can pull it off. It would be a bigger upset than the Seattle victory, obviously. But I expect a much closer game than most people think.
Well, Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams is going to be a great matchup.
Yeah.
He held DK Metcalf to nothing.
He held Metcalf all 3 games that they played to so during the fantasy season. Bud would text me, "Is Metcalf playing?" I was like, "Yeah, but he's got Jalen Ramsey blanketed over him. That's why he's not doing anything."
Jalen Ramsey made Jamal Adams look a fool. I gotta say, is Adams getting surgery? Did I read that right? Somebody on Seattle's getting surgery, but.
Go ahead, Phil.
I would say, aside from leaving the Jets, you think he's happy he went to Seattle and won and done in the playoffs?
I don't know. I was curious. I mean, I think he was happy to leave New York, but.
Well, I mean, the Jets made out in that deal.
Yeah. I was going to say so. I'd see it. The Seahawks can't feel great about it. He had a reasonably forgettable season. I mean, he was an upgrade for them, but was he really an upgrade over who the Jets got in return?
He was injured most of the year. He was certainly not as productive because he didn't play in a defensive system that allowed him to get up onto the line of scrimmage and chase the quarterback. So it's not – and we said this at the beginning of the year. He went to a team that didn't fit his build.
No, I mean, right? Greg Williams gave him the option to blitz every single play, I think. Like, it was like, if you don't have to cover somebody, go ahead. Like, nobody else is going to give him that.
Listen, he can – I don't think he signed an extension with Seattle. I don't know what he's going to do, but the Jets now have the 22nd pick in the draft because of it. So, all right.
They're going to re-sign him this offseason?
No, he's not going back to New York. New York has – I mean –
because he's not going to get nearly the amount of money he would have if he stayed put and signed an extension.
But. No, not a chance. I mean, he's going to be looking for $20 million a year. Nobody's going to give him $20 million a year. Nobody.
No. I don't. He didn't earn it. He's got an injury season on it.
Nope.
He's also got one more year in his contract, right? Doesn't he have one more year?
Well, technically.
So he's a Seahawk for next season, unless they trade him.
Well, they could franchise him. And he would get paid, $15 million. But I'm sure that they're going to want to franchise somebody else on that team.
I don't know where Metcalf stands, but you're probably right.
Well, Metcalf is still on his rookie deal, so I mean, he's still got his only in his second year.
Okay.
Which is a steal.
Yeah. I'd kill for a couple of players like that on our team.
Oh my God.
They passed on him.
Well, yeah, we got Becton, right?
The Jets pass on everybody. The Jets should draft Devontae Smith. I'm telling you, this kid lit it up last night again.
I know.
I mean, they don't. They could get a quarterback. They could figure out what their quarterback situation is. Totally. If they could put Devontae Smith and Mims, not Mims.
Mims.
Is it Mims?
Crowder. Yeah,
Mims. And Crowder in the slot. I'm telling you, that would open up the offense so much more because you have 2 deep threats with speed on the outside.
I know.
I mean, they've never had that.
I said trade for Deshaun Watson too, right?
Oh, but if I texted both of you and I said if I were the Jets, I would trade the number 2 pick and the number 22 pick but from everything that I hear, they want 4 number 1s and a player. And you're going to have to pick up his $150 million contract.
Who's giving up 4 number 1s?
They made him. They're trying to make him untradeable. Is basically what they're trying to do because no one's going to pay that.
Right, but it's not next year is the killer. It's the year after that. It's like $41 million to the cap or something like that. So you don't want to do that. I mean, the Jets got 8. They're going to have around $77, $78 million under the cap for next year, which is the second highest in the league. Build through the draft.
I like Watson, but they've been a bad football team for the last 2-3 seasons. So, I mean, they do have some talent, but even when they've had some talent around him, it's not like he's gone deep into the playoffs or anything. He doesn't have the the win-loss resume to get me excited. I know he's exciting as a player, but I don't want to confuse fantasy football with actual wins on the field, and he doesn't quite have them. So
he's had bad coaching too, though, Dan. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, he did lead the league in passing this year.
So his success with our team is predicated on also getting a good coach. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I don't want to double dip on the hopes and prayers.
You said last week that you wanted them to hire someone quickly, right? And they're already interviewing the Niners defensive coordinator twice already.
Yeah, well, he's one of the.
Well, the rumor. Yeah. Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
I would say he's a hot commodity. I think they've interviewed 8 people, even Aaron Glenn, who used to play for him, which I think is super cool. But I'm happy that they've got all their interviews in. They'll make a decision fast. Well, I think before the Super Bowl.
Well, I think now that Peterson has been fired from the Eagles, which to me is no surprise there. I mean, he completely fumbled that last game of the year. The fact that they're bringing in, my God, Saleh?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce his last name?
We'll find out. I think that's how I would pronounce it. Saleh, yeah. We'll find out.
Okay, whatever it is. The rumor is that what I've been hearing is that he's going to be the guy. I mean, I think that's great because he brings a ton of energy. He's a great defensive coach. He just if he is the person, he needs to build a very good offensive system because that's really what the Jets need.
Yeah, I mean that makes me happy because he's a hot coordinator who's got a good track record, but he's also a hungry coach because he doesn't have head coaching experience. So it'd be win-win, especially since he's one of the top names. I don't love going after the Kansas City offensive coordinator only because he has such a star talent that it makes you wonder what he'd do elsewhere as a head coach. But I mean, now
with the Eagles opening up and Houston opened up and the Chargers opened up, I mean, he can go to any one of those, and he has, I mean, pretty good quarterback play.
Yeah.
The Philly job is not attractive. That's got to be almost less of attractive than I mean, that Philly job's not attractive.
Except that the Eagles are within striking distance of winning the division. They were a game out this year. So,
right, but fast forward to next year.
But Phil, put your hatred to every other team in the NFC East aside. The Eagles' job is still
in any division. They won 4 games.
They have 2 good quarterbacks.
It's not even about 4 wins, Phil. It's a marquee job in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're not coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're coaching the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. If somebody called you and said, "Hey, Phil, we want you to be the coach of the Eagles," you would say, "No, I hate the Eagles. Oh my God, I'm not coaching there." You highbrow them. Give me a break, dude.
The other thing to Bud's point, the Eagles is on the caliber of one of the 2 New York teams without the pressure of that market. I mean, you get some pressure in Philly, but they give those guys a long leash. I don't know. Peterson truly messed it up.
Like the highest amount of cap. They're in cap space hell right now. No one's coming to Philly because first of all, they can't afford anybody. Carson Wentz wants out. I don't know. It's just it's a little dumpster fire right now.
But Jalen Hurts is a quality quarterback, and I mean, I think if Carson Wentz wants out, I mean, you could easily say, okay, that's fine because Jalen Hurts is right there. I mean, I don't think people don't want to go to the Jets because they have Sam Darnold, and if they get rid of Sam Darnold, what is the plan at quarterback, right? If you get rid of Carson Wentz, you have a plan at quarterback.
Right.
Yes, you're in salary cap hell, but you at least have the foundation of something that you can build from.
The thing I'll say about I agree. The thing I'll say about the Jets, though, is if Douglas hires the coach, then he can go out and get him the quarterback he wants, like a Wentz, who will be available. The Jets have the money to do that?
Would you accept a trade of Wentz? I don't know. I think I'd rather want Sam.
I really liked what I saw of him the first month and a half of the season when that was a crappy team and he really fought to win them football games. And he moves well in the pocket, even after his injury of a year or 2 ago. I see decisiveness from Wentz that I don't see in Darnold yet. I'm not saying he can't be decisive, but he's a more exciting quarterback.
The Jets have 9 draft picks in this draft. You could easily trade a 2 and a 3 or a 3 and a 4 or whatever for Carson Wentz. You pick up the rest of his contract. You keep the number 2 pick. You get Devontae Smith. Now you have a quarterback. Now you have wide receivers, and now you build through free agency your defense and your offensive line.
He's a former MVP. It's
a system. It can actually work. I'm actually getting slightly giddy just thinking about it. It's not going to happen because the Jets will find some way to screw it up.
Well, that's what basically Buffalo did. I mean, they got Josh Allen, then they brought in Diggs, and they've got a rotation at running back, which could come back to haunt them next round, but they are looking hot. I wanted to circle back to the AFC playoffs again. I don't want to pass right over Buffalo.
I don't know if it's anymore because Zach Moss got hurt, so I don't know. I think it's just Singletary.
Well, that's what I mean. So that could hurt them in this next game against the one-dimensional Ravens, but otherwise they did that formula because they have the defense. And
Buffalo at one point, I texted Phil, and I thought they were gonna absolutely blow the Colts out.
Yeah,
they were cruising. They were on cruise control, and to Indianapolis' credit, they made it a game. I mean, it was close towards the end. Buffalo, I just feel like they are too well-rounded of a football team right now. And even if they lose Zach Moss, I think Baltimore is 100% one-dimensional. Everything goes through Lamar Jackson. Everything. Like, he runs the ball. He ran for 150, 160 yards the other day. Like, if you can stop his running game, if you could just stop his running game and make him beat you through the air, Buffalo's going to eat him up. I'm sorry. It's just going to do it. Josh Allen makes 40, 50, 60-yard throws look like a flick of the wrist. Did you see some of those throws?
That's what we heard. That's what we heard about him out of college, that he had the arm. And I'm really impressed that he put the rest of his game together because he made a lot of mistakes when he was younger, which who doesn't, right? But that was the big thing about him. He had the arm strength, and he does. He makes it look easy. Now he's got the digs to throw to. So none of us really like the Ravens' chances against the Bills. You like Cleveland at all against Kansas City, or you're just thinking the Steelers, they stink, so no?
I just think Kansas City is just. I mean, they're just loaded, right? I mean, you have so much to defend. I know Greg. I think Greg Moore comes back for Cleveland, but that's that'll help. But I mean, it's Kelsey, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Bell. Actually, I think we saw CEH go down. I don't even know if he's healthy. I haven't heard anything about that. Remember, he went down in week 7. Was it week 17? He might have.
No, it was week 14, I think.
It was that early? Okay. All right. Well, in any event, I haven't heard anything about his availability, so I'm not sure if he's.
Well, Allen and Mayfield both got their first playoff wins. Darnold's obviously waiting on his. I don't know when or if it'll come, but these teams look good. It's not difficult to rebuild in a couple of seasons if you make some good decisions. If you guys, I want to ask, Urban Meyer, is this a serious inquiry for the Jaguars? Is this a good decision? I'm highly skeptical.
It's a good decision for the Jaguars because, one, it sells tickets, and it gives the fans a sense of legitimacy because Urban Meyer, especially in Florida, where he's sometimes more popular than the governor, he can do whatever he wants. I don't know if it's worth $12 to $14 million a year, but apparently he had one interview and he's already building a staff. So this is very typical Jaguars. They're probably going to go for the splash.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have the number 1 pick. Obviously, you're going to get Trevor Lawrence. If you do get Urban Meyer, I do think that they will be a better football team, but they are missing pieces still. It's similar to the Jets.
Yeah.
One player is not going to make or break whether or not either football team is going to be, challenging what they can make the playoffs next year or
not. No, I mean, it really starts in the offensive defensive lines and whether they get it together fast enough. I read an interesting stat that Blake Bortles has more playoff wins since 2017 than Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, and Matt Ryan. He has two victories, and those guys have one or none. It's so hilarious. It must have all happened one season because he's been out for a couple of years. But
they almost went to the Super Bowl, yeah.
yeah, Jacksonville had a run.
They should have gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they should have. I mean, they were the better team that year. And by the way, in that Super Bowl, it proved that New England was not the better team than Atlanta. Atlanta just stopped playing, similar to what happened with Jacksonville. They just stopped playing.
Yeah, which is you can't do that ever, especially season team.
No,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
But I want to circle back to Ben real quick before
Yes.
we move on to whatever else we want to move. He looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They've looked terrible for 5 or 6 weeks now. Is this it? Is he done?
I think so. I've been expecting him to retire the last couple of off seasons, and he keeps running it back, and he only makes it about 2/3 of the way through the season. So I gotta think that he's gonna hang it up.
You can't expect a 38-year-old quarterback on a rebuilt elbow to throw the ball 75 times.
No,
They have no running game, and as long as they are not a well-rounded football team and they're going to throw everything on him, he should just walk away. He's going to end up getting himself killed. I mean, and it's not a good look for him. I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion. Listen, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. The last 2 years, the last 3 years, he has not showed well.
Now,
and
he needs to figure
it out.
He did have a good record though this season, so it won't look bad on his resume in the end.
But they were what, 12-4?
Yeah.
Right, and they were 11-0, and then so the last month of the year when they were asking a lot out of him, he was not doing very well.
Well, they really lost their whole offensive line, right? Because I mean, James Conner had a decent season after Bell left, and then that all fell apart. They need some sort of a semblance of a running game if he has a hope of continuing to play. I mean, something. But I don't know. What do you think, though? I think he retires. I think he should retire. Maybe he won't, but
you're coming into the, Breeze is old. Rivers might have played his last game. Ben might have played his last game. Breeze may, if he loses, may play his last game. Like this could be there could be a big changing of the guard this year.
Well, I always lumped Eli Manning with Breeze and Big Ben and Matt Ryan and Brady, kind of like as a group of quarterbacks. I know that they were not all the same year, but Eli's the only one that went out when he actually the clock showed it. Now maybe Brady's proven us all wrong, but the other guys are struggling to find consistency.
Eli could still play if he wanted to.
Father time is undefeated, as they say.
Yes. Well, Brady already said he's coming back next season. Send me that guy.
Yeah, but why would you not? I mean, first off, he's making $25 million next year. He threw for 4,700 yards and 43 touchdowns. Yeah, he's coming back next year.
Yeah. So this is everything we were promised with Jameis Winston minus the turnovers, right? I mean, this is exactly what we were promised. It's pretty good. It's impressive. I think Breeze and Ben retire. I think Rivers comes back for another year. I think.
But to where? Is he going to go back to Indianapolis?
Probably not. I think he'll play for one more team for another season.
I mean, he's going to. I don't know. I mean, he was not the reason why they lost on Saturday.
No,
he played pretty well, actually.
He rarely is, which is why a team like San Francisco or Washington who struggled with game managing quarterbacks this season, because Garoppolo was barely more than that when he was healthy. I mean, he's an upgrade because he stays healthy. So it's interesting. I guess we'll see how they circle around. I'd be shocked if Drew Brees kept playing, and same with Ben, because
I think the offseason is going to be fascinating this year. I think it's one of the more. I mean, there's a ton of wide receivers on the market. There's a ton of quarterbacks may be playing their last game. It's going to be a very fun offseason.
But I read something today. I don't know if you guys read it. That where did I read it? I don't remember where it was. But broadcasters are looking at Philip Rivers to be like kind of a Tony Romo-ish I mean, if you're, I'm not saying you're going to offer him $20 million a year, but I mean, if you can do that, I mean, Drew Brees already has a contract signed. As soon as he retires, he moves to the booth.
Okay.
Why would you want to play another? Why would you want to play another game when you can have a cushy job?
Which booth is he moving to?
Well, I don't know, Phil. I just read the report. I don't
But
know. He can move to your new booth downstairs. I don't know.
The only thing I can tell you, Bud, is that they have this fire in them to actually play the game of football that can only be met by actually playing the game of football. And to put that fire out is like killing a part of themselves. I think that that's really, truly what it is. I mean, I loved playing football, but I knew when I needed to stop or it was going to seriously injure me if I didn't. And I really tried to push it. But they don't have that problem. So I mean, maybe they do. Maybe that's really the issue here. But Phil, you've been utterly quiet on your Giants. Now I know that there hasn't been much news, but
There's no news.
So they extended Gettleman's contract. Are you happy that the GM is going to be sticking around for a while?
There's no reason why. We talked about this last week. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been. That's my opinion.
Okay. So
That's my opinion.
You're feeling good. I mean,
you're not going to hear any Giants news until free agency starts.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, you'd hope not. I guess it'd probably be bad news if we heard anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing on the horizon. There's nothing that's going to surprise. It's, they're building, so you need more pieces, and that's all it's going to be.
Very good. Well, who are you two rooting for this weekend? I know you're. Yeah.
I guess I want to see the Browns play well. I don't think they're going to win, but it's funny. It's interesting. 3 out of the 4 games are teams that did not play each other in the regular season. The Bucs and the Saints are the only teams that played each other. Well, they played twice, but all the other games are new matchups for this year, which would be kind of interesting.
That's fun. I mean, I'm obviously rooting for the LA Rams until they lose again this weekend because my jinx worked last week, and I think you're a Bills guy, Bud. That's what you said last week, right? Still.
Yeah, I think it's shocking for me to root that way, but the way that they play, and I really like Josh Allen. Now, if you remember, 3 years ago, I said to both of you that the Jets should pick Josh Allen.